friends. Greetings from Berkeley Springs in West Virginia. Just less than 2 hours from Washington and Baltimore. It's a pretty day here. Spring is on its way, that's for sure. So we're all happy about that. Let me talk to you about this transition that's inbound and how we're going to have to deal with some of these kinds of things. I want to talk to you about decision making. Because what you're into is a space here where there is a lot of moving parts. This is a system that we're living in and evaluating and trying to make sense out of as we move forward. And it is highly dynamic, and which means it's all moving and so on. And what that means is that and the complexity and the rate of change is going up. So this is essentially exponential. So it gets faster and faster and more uncertain and so on as you go into this kind of space. And there's an interesting kind of relationship, I think, associated with how you deal with environments like this, or any kind of environment. It's about decision making and how you make decisions. There are essentially, you have a limited amount of time from the time that you first become aware of an event or a situation that's emerging, it's developing, and you see downstream that you're going to have to make a decision. Say you're going to go on a trip, you're going to go up to Philadelphia or to New York or something like that, and you want to do that in 3 weeks. Well, you have 3 weeks to make a decision about how you get to New York or Philly. As it turns out, you can drive over here to Baltimore and get on a bus and take it up to New York. You could drive to Baltimore and get on a train and ride the Amtrak up to Washington. You could maybe even go over to this little town called Hagerstown, Maryland here. Who gets a charter flight and get on a little airplane and take you up there. You could drive, of course, 5 hours to New York. And or you could talk somebody into driving you and you could ride along. I mean, there's a variety of kind of ways in which you could do this thing. And so when you start at the beginning of this kind of a process, any kind of decision-making process, what you have is the maximum amount of options that are available to you. Potentially every one of those things that I suggested to you as ways to get to New York, let's say we're going to New York, are available to you at this point. And you can choose whatever one you want. You can evaluate the price, you can tell, who's going with you and other kinds of things, and you could do that. You could make a choice now. And so you start with the maximum amount of options. That's high. You're really high. And what happens as you go down and you get closer to the event, the number of options decreases. There are reasons, maybe for timing and for cost or other kind of stuff. Stuff changes as you go forward, and the number of options decrease to where when you get really close to the event, then it's really quite obvious. If you're 6 hours out and then you need to get to New York, there's only one way to get there, and that's to drive. You're not going to get a train. You're not going to do it. You're not going to do any of the other kind of things because you're out of options. And so that makes the one curve. There's an inverse relationship with another curve, and that is that you start with the least amount of information about the whole literal situation, and as you go toward the event, the amount of information that is available to you grows. You gather new things, new people show up, you see what's going to happen in New York and what time you need to get there, and whatever it turns out to be, more information becomes available. And that you have the most information just before you leave. And you know, it isn't going to get much better than that. Maybe when you show up in New York, it even gets a little bit more. But no, but you have a whole lot more when the closer you get to the event. So there's this inverse relationship, right? The amount of options start very high, and they decrease. The amount of information starts low and increases. And the idea is to find the sweet spot in the middle, to where you have enough information to make the decision, and the options are still available that'll allow you to do what you want to do. Now, this is I have friends who always put off their decisions until right at the end. They won't decide. They have these ideas or reasons that say, well, I might want to change my mind. I want to do other kind of things. And that's hard for me to understand, because what I know is that in general in life, you can sign up to something and you can always get out. You can always cancel. You can, more or less, in general, you can quit. You can tell them you're not coming or something. But you can't always decide that you're going to come if you get really close. I mean, if somebody invites you to a party and you say, well, I'm going to wait, the likelihood is, or the possibility is, that you get to a place where you can't get to the party, or they have a limited number of seats and you've missed the window is closed and you can't make it. I remember we got invited to once to a big, giant, amazing kind of wedding in India, really big, and we started at the big package invitation. It was probably the most significant kind of event, a week-long thing that I had ever been invited to. And we looked at it all and said, God, this is wonderful, but man, I don't know how we'd ever get to go to this thing. And so we couldn't afford it at the time, and it was a big chunk of time and whatever. And there was a line down at the bottom, and it said, please call so-and-so for additional information or to make arrangements or whatever it was. And we decided that it was just no way that we could afford to do this and all this time, and we never got around to calling the number to talk to the person that was on the other end. What we found out afterwards was that they had chartered an airplane, and all of the Americans were going to go jump on the airplane, and they covered all the expenses going and back, and we could have had a marvelous, wonderful time. But we didn't open ourselves up to those kind of possibilities. We shut the window down before we got a chance to really kind of explore the whole thing. And so that funny little story is kind of emblematic of the bigger picture as we go forward here, because there are going to be times when there are opportunities, and you're going to have to be able to make decisions, and you can make them sooner. You can't wait until the last minute, because if you wait till the last minute, the chances of your ability to deal with them and take advantage of them go away. And that makes the case for intuition and your ability to get in touch with that little voice that will give you the answers to almost any question you have. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in another session here. But there literally is a way going through here, which is part of this evolution to becoming a new human, that you start to refine and develop a series of whole capabilities, telepathy. There's a variety of kind of things that are kind of in a suite of these new capabilities that the new human's going to have. But access to a really substantial, serious access to intuition is one of those, because You don't have the history to be able to deal with all of the stuff that's going on. It's a big, complex system. It's going fast. Things are showing up that you've never seen before. And you're going to have to learn how to think in a different kind of way and make decisions in a different way. And we'll talk more about that in these upcoming sessions. So tell your friends about PostScript. Invite them to be a part of all of this. And if you haven't already, check out the link below that allows you and send us your email, and we'll make sure that you get on our list so that we give you an announcement before the next one of these episodes comes up. Thanks.